Would you like to turn like Maddie Ziegler? Or just like to know how somebody turns like Maddie Ziegler? In today's video, we're going to be breaking down all of Maddie's turns, and I'm going to be talking about how to make and perfect an à la seconde turn, and some of the unique things that Maddie does in her turns, whether that could be good or bad from a technical perspective. So thank you to Madison Ziecler, the YouTube channel that has created this turning compilation of Maddie that I'm going to be using as an example to teach you guys from. So first off, what an à la seconde turn is, it is a turn that is executed with a straight leg in second position. So your body will rotate 360 degrees in order to execute one complete turn. I would say this is more of an intermediate dance skill. You should definitely have a few years of ballet under your belt and some jazz technique before you're working on your à la seconde turns. Now, essentially, an à la seconde turn should be turned out right from the hip, and you want to keep your hips neutral. And that's something that Maddie learns to do throughout the years. But if you look at these earlier clips, you can see that there is a lot of bobbling in the movement. It's not so controlled. And as we go through time, the turns generally become more controlled and are more athletic, and everything creates more of a clean picture. So when you're executing an à la seconde turn, you want to start out in a nice plie preparation. You can really prepare from any position, with the most common today being a proper ballet fourth position. But you'll also see in ballet that turns are often executed directly from a nice tight fifth or an open fourth lunge. I would say that in today's day, in the competition world and in jazz, we often also see people preparing for à la seconde turns in a turned-in jazz preparation. I would just recommend that whatever position that you are picking, that you start out your plie prep in turnout. I don't personally like starting in a turned-in position or a jazz fourth, just because then you're not really executing the right muscles right from the beginning of the turn. Whereas if you execute your turns from a fourth position, you're really going to make sure that you're engaging your turnout and you're engaging the proper plie that you'd be using with your turnout throughout the turn right from the beginning of your preparation, which is really what a preparation is for. So in order to move into your turn from your preparation, I would say that most coaches and teachers would recommend starting from your plied preparation position, and as you begin the turn, you will wind up so that you're facing the left corner if you are going to be turning right, and from that position you should be in a nice plie. Your legs should be straight and extended in front of you, but you should be facing that left corner, and then from there you're going to open your leg up to second and you're going to be on fast with the audience. This would be the most common way to execute your à la seconde turn, and I think that this is a great way to train beginner dancers to get ready for their à la seconde turns. It is often used in choreography where you will be executing your turn to one of the different corners. We often see this in order to hide somebody's lack of turnout, for example. Maddie is a pretty good technical dancer, and I would say that she has pretty good turnout, and therefore a lot of the time we're just seeing her turns on fast. So that would be with her plie preparation to the corner and opening to the front, and she's always turning to the right because she is right-handed. Now, I would say that the most important things in your turn are really your core and your upper body, and keeping your hips and your pelvis neutral, keeping your shoulders neutral, and making sure that you really stretch your knee, stretch your ankle, and point your foot. So you don't want to be crunching or clubbing your toes. You want to be really lifting through the top of the foot, the instep, and creating a nice point. I feel that a common oversight when it comes to à la seconde turns is the stretching of the knee, and everybody seems to be aware that you need to have straight knees, you need to stretch your knees, but I feel that a lot of the focus is emphasized on stretching the top of the knee, and yes, you should be lifting the kneecap in order to create a nice strong line on the top, but in order to activate the right muscles when you're using your turnout and your hamstrings and your inner thighs, in your a la seconde turns is that you want to be stretching the bottom of the knee. Next, let's talk about the supporting leg because it is equally as important. She's starting to lose the releve as she goes through the turns. Here, she's almost on a flat ankle. Now, you want to be really stretched up on top of your highest releve to the point that it's almost creating a straight line from the front of your leg down your shin bone to your instep. And you want to be pressing through the floor so that the weight is in between your first toe, so your big toe, and the second toe. And the way that sickling happens is because we end up pushing the weight further towards the pinky toe when we should really be lifting it. The next important thing to note in your a la seconde turns is that your working leg should be at 90 degrees or as close to 90 degrees as possible while executing your turn. Maddie actually does a fantastic job of this, so this is a perfect example. Now, in order to do this, you're going to want to maintain turnout both in your supporting and your working leg, and you're going to only be able to keep your hips neutral enough to do that if you are really engaging your core all the way from the front and the back. Another oversight with turning is that when we are told to engage our core, we often just think of engaging the front and we think of our core as the abdomen, when in reality your core is your entire trunk, so you need to be engaging your entire back and your entire front. So a big, I would say, criticism that I would give to Maddie in these younger years when she's turning is that she doesn't have enough support in the back, especially the upper back and the shoulders, and therefore she kind of slouches those shoulders forward a bit and she bobbles a little bit. Her arms are kind of a little bit flailing, and the more that she works on her back support, which you can see sort of in this clip, the stronger her turns become and they look a lot more elegant and a lot more controlled. So make sure that you're thinking of your entire back and your entire trunk for your core support and not just your abdomen. Now, working our way up the body, you want to make sure that your rib cage stays closed, because the more that you splay your rib cage open, the more that your back is going to arch. And in order to engage your back properly in a neutral position, you need your back to not be arching. So you really need to engage the front of your core, your abdomen, all the way up to the top of the rib cage when you're thinking of the front of the body. Then you want to keep your shoulders pressed down, and this will come from engaging your upper back, because those muscles in your scapula, when engaged properly, keep your shoulders lowered and connected to your obliques and connected with your trunk and your core, and everything is nice and engaged and stays connected and controlled. Obviously, this is something that is going to come with time and training, and developing those proper muscles and using the proper muscles more often and more frequently is obviously going to allow you to obtain better technical results and more control in your upper body. Then moving on up, the last things we would like to focus on for our turns is keeping a nice elongated back of the neck and making sure that we spot our head. Watching through this compilation video that Madison Ziecler has created, I can see that Maddie is evidently training very hard in ballet at certain points throughout this entire span of the show, and then at other points she is not training so hard, and that is illustrated in her technique. And it's not necessarily a entire forward incline progression. There's just some moments where she's a lot more controlled, and that is probably times where they were not traveling so much and doing so much promotion and maybe had more time to actually train, or over the summer when they're not filming the show and had more time to train. But overall, I think that Maddie's turns are great. When she is really training hard, she has great control. Her technique is fabulous. The back control and upper activation of the scapula is great. Her spotting is great. You can always see that her inner thighs are engaged, the knee is stretched, the ankle is pointed. All of those great things to keep note for when you're looking for fantastic technique. I would say that the biggest thing for Maddie is making sure that she really works on her feet and presses through that releve. She has a tendency to sickle her ankle, and this is at basically any point throughout her dance career, and just really not get to the full height of that releve. So just working on the calf muscle, maybe even just working on some rises literally all the time. You can even do this while you're walking around the kitchen or preparing yourself lunch or breakfast or anything in the morning. Just making sure that you're really working on those ankles to get a nice strong releve. But that is it for today's video. I hope that you guys found this video useful and informative if you're a dancer or you just wanted to know some of the more intricate details about a la seconde turns. But that is it for me, so I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!